If you've been looking for a home in the Arizona market for the past 2 years, you've seen homes come on the market and basically go pending overnight. Now, if you're still looking for a home, then you've probably started to notice over the past few weeks, homes that were pending have all of a sudden, poof, come back on the market. Stay tuned. I'm going to tell you exactly why this is happening, why I think we're going to start seeing this happen more often, and reasons why buyers need to pay attention. This could be a great opportunity for you. So we are still seeing homes go off the market relatively quickly, even with the increase in our inventory. However, we are also starting to see homes that have gone under contract are coming back on the market within about 3 to 10 days. Why is this happening? First, let me explain a little bit about how our contract works to help put it into context for you. The Arizona real estate contract is what we consider an as-is contract, and this is the contract that we have been using since about 2018. Why did they change the contract, you might ask? Well, prior to this, we had a section in our contract dealing with warranted items. What that meant was that once a buyer was under contract, once the inspection got done, the seller was automatically agreeing to fix certain things per the contract or those warranted items. Well, cut to 2008, with all the short sales and foreclosures, they were all dealing with this in this contract with the warranted items. Well, no bank and nobody doing a short sale was going to warrant anything in the home. They were already losing so much money that we started adding in an as-is addendum, and the Arizona Department of Real Estate had to create that. And this as-is addendum was starting to be incorporated into every single contract. These homes had often not been very well maintained, and the sellers, whether it be a real seller or a bank, were not going to be on the hook for any of these warranted items. So once we got through all the short sale and foreclosure mess, the warranted items started to become a really big issue in the contract. Everybody interpreted it differently, and the ADRE decided to permanently change our contract to be an as-is contract. And that is what we use today. Okay, I promise I'm almost done with the boring part. So as it pertains to what we're talking about in this video, I am only going to talk about the due diligence or inspection period in this contract, because there are a few other things, but I don't want to overwhelm you. In Section 6 of our contract, this deals with our due diligence period and the amount of time a buyer has to do any and all inspections they feel necessary to determine the value of the home, the condition of the home, and any other material fact that they feel is relevant for them to make a buying decision. Now, standard in our contract is 10 days, but if you notice there's a line after that to allow you to change that to any amount of days that you would like. Now, that is a negotiable term of the contract. Standard is 10. For the most part in normal markets, it's left as 10 unless there's an extenuating circumstance. Right now in our crazy upside down world, I have seen anything from 0 to 3 to 5. Shortening that inspection period has really been one of the kind of tips and tools that I have used for my buyers in this challenging market. However, normally I would say 10, sometimes 15 days is the norm. Now, because of our crazy upside down world, you'll start to understand here in just a minute why some of these homes are coming back on the market so quickly. Now, in Section 6J of the contract, it talks about the buyer's disapproval, and it states, if buyer in buyer's sole discretion disapproves of items as allowed herein, buyer shall deliver to seller a signed notice of the items disapproved and state in the notice that buyer elects to either 1. Immediately cancel this contract, in which case, if buyer's notice specifies disapproval of items as allowed herein, the earnest money shall be released to the buyer. Now, in that section, it goes on to say that you also have the ability to allow the seller to make repairs to the contract. But as it pertains to what we're talking about right now, we're just going to focus on the cancellation part. So what's a reason to cancel the contract? So it's anything the buyer feels is a material reason for them to not move forward with the transaction. The buyer does not have to do the inspection prior to canceling. They could realize that after doing some due diligence of their own, they no longer like the neighborhood for whatever reason that is. It's a reason for them to cancel. They do have to give a reason, and you must cancel prior to the expiration of your inspection period, and it must be in writing. But it's at the buyer's sole discretion. For this reason alone, this is one of the reasons sellers are wanting a shorter inspection period. They have had multiple offers to look at, and they are wanting to make sure that that buyer is on the hook solidly as quickly as possible. So let's talk about a few of the reasons we're seeing homes come back on the market. We have a lot of buyers buying from out of state. They have their agent do a FaceTime viewing with them. They walk through the entire house. They make an offer on that house. They go under contract. Then they jump on a plane and fly out. Now, let's say they have a 5-day inspection period. They get that home under contract on a Tuesday, which means day 1 of their inspection period would be Wednesday. So they fly in on a Thursday. They decide this is not at all what they thought it was on FaceTime, and they decide to cancel. This is within their 5-day inspection period. So as long as they decide to cancel with a pertinent reason, they no longer value the neighborhood, whatever that looks like, buyer's sole discretion, they will get their earnest money back. Now the next one, the buyer again gets a home under contract and again has a 5-day inspection period. The inspection happens on day 3. On day 4, the perfect house in the perfect neighborhood comes on the market. They go take a look at it, and on day 5, their contract gets accepted. On day 5, they now cancel the contract based on something from the inspection. They no longer see the value in the home. Something that is just pertinent to them no longer fits for that home and for them. So they cancel based on those items and they get their earnest money back. Our market has been so crazy over the last few years that buyers have had to move extremely fast. If you were asking my kids, they'd be saying people were moving as fast as a cheetah. As our market is shifting right now and inventory is starting to rise, buyers are no longer okay with some of the things that they were okay with in the heat of the market. Things that they would put up with in the inspection, they're no longer okay with if the seller is not willing to fix them. And they are seeing other opportunities out there, especially if these sellers will not fix some of these items. And based on those things alone, they are more apt to cancel the contract and go look at other homes. I just had a client do this the other day. We wrote a contract on a home. It was a great home, needed a lot of updating. We made an offer that was very, very aggressive for now. The price point of the home was very high. Had they put it on the market about a month ago, they probably would have gotten that price. Today's market, they're not going to get it with the amount of work that needs to be done to the house. Great house, needs some updating. My clients are willing to do it, but not at the price of the list price. So guess what? House has been sitting on the market now for 2 weeks. We're watching, we're waiting. This is what buyers are doing. And this is the other reason why if they get it under contract and they find all these things during the inspection period, more homes have come up on the market while they've been in an inspection period. Seller's not willing to fix them, cancel the contract, boop, back on the market. They'll go back out house shopping. Having that out in the contract during that inspection period in the buyer's sole discretion is the main reason we are seeing homes pop back on the market right now. With a market that's been weighted so heavily on the seller side, this is that one downside for them in the contract. So as a buyer, how do you use these tips to your advantage? So if you really, really love a home and you don't get it under contract, if you're in a multiple offer situation, ask the seller if they will fully execute a backup contract. This is a great way to ensure that should that first contract fall out of escrow, you are in line and will slide right into that first position. No more negotiating on the price, no more negotiating on terms. You will then become first position. I have seen this happen. Sometimes my buyers will ask me, should I really do that? I tell them, if you love this house, we absolutely should. You just never know what's going to happen with the contract. And this puts you right in the first position. You will not have to negotiate with the seller again. Should it come back off the market and they decided to open it up to the open market, you will go right into first position. Great tip if you really love the house and something happens to the first contract. Now, just to be realistic, especially during our hot time of the market, a lot of sellers were not wanting to negotiate and fully execute a backup contract. Should that first deal fall out, they wanted to open it back up to the open market and see what else they would get. Let people compete again. So especially if you're in a hot market, it is very advantageous for buyers to fully execute a backup contract on a house they love. Another tip is to be there in person and actually see the house. Sellers are always going to feel more confident and comfortable negotiating with someone that's physically been in their home. I know through the pandemic, we all really got comfortable with FaceTiming our clients through homes. And really, sellers got more comfortable accepting these contracts as well. However, it just becomes much less risky for a seller to negotiate with somebody who's actually been in their home. Now, I know it's just not possible for some of you to get here and actually see the home. I work with a lot of them. And when I do, I just make sure that I have a very, very good conversation with the agent. I let them know that we have been in the neighborhood personally and looked at other homes in the neighborhood. If we've seen that floor plan before, I make sure they know we have physically been in that floor plan. My clients understand that they have been in that, maybe not in your home specifically, but we've been in that same floor plan. I do everything in my power to make sure that that seller understands and can convey to the seller that my client is extremely comfortable and really understands this house. We have done extensive work through FaceTime, as well as all the photos and videos that maybe the seller has provided for us. We know the house in and out. We are not going to cancel. Now, this has gotten a little more tricky because some sellers are just flat saying, we will not entertain an offer from someone that has not physically been in our house. So you have to make sure that you let that agent know you have educated your buyers on the neighborhood, on the floor plans, on everything else involved in that purchase so that they feel more comfortable with you and your buyers. Now, I have sold many houses sight unseen, especially during the pandemic, and I can honestly tell you that I have not had one of them cancel when they flew in and actually saw the home. I have one client that has now still, after 3 years, still never seen the house. And I have one today. I'm going to do a FaceTime showing with her, but she already knows how much she loves the house and she's flying and she's getting on a plane. She will be here tomorrow to physically see the house. But she loves the house after the FaceTime showing today. We are going to be writing an offer. And my third tip is if the house has been under contract for a long time and the buyer sees it and they say, oh my gosh, how did I miss this? Or maybe they just weren't looking at the time. Now they're really, really hot and they find this house. It is in the neighborhood they love. It is everything that they love, but it's under contract. Don't be afraid to call the agent. Find out how their deal is going. Oftentimes it's going fine, but you never know until you ask. I have called on multiple and I've asked them, hey, how's your deal going? My client just found this. We're really, really looking now and they'd love the house. How is your deal going? And they'll tell me, you know what? It's not going great. It was going fine, but we're running into some financing problems. We're running into some other issues. It might fall apart. Get your client under contract in a backup position. If that house falls apart, your client will slide right into first position. I have done this a few times and you feel like such the hero. It is a phenomenal feeling and your buyers will thank you time and time again just for making that phone call. Just recently, I had a client fall in love with a house, very similar situation. Called the agent, asked them, they said the house is under contract, but the buyer has to sell their property. Now they've got until X date to sell their property. It was only a week. They still hadn't gotten it under contract in this crazy market. And they said, but you know what? They've got hard money down there. It's non-refundable earnest money. I really don't see them canceling. And they can qualify for the house without having to sell their home. I thought, gosh, you know what? Probably not a great scenario for my buyer, but my buyer still wanted to go see it. We went and we saw it. Guess what? My client loved it. We waited. Agent called me. They said, guess what? I don't think it's going to happen. I think this deal is going to fall apart. My client now is in a perfect position. So just making that phone call, having those conversations with the agents, even if the house has been under contract for a while, make sure you're asking those questions. Because the worst case scenario, all they can say is, no, we're closing next week. But at least you've asked the question. And you never know, you might find a phenomenal opportunity for your buyer. Now, these are just some of the reasons why we are seeing some of the homes in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area come back on the market right now. I believe we're going to start seeing this more and more. So buyers, this is where your opportunity comes in. There are opportunities out there right now. You just have to be a little bit patient and make sure you're working with someone that really understands how to search out those opportunities for you. And as our inventory starts to rise, you will have more opportunities for homes to choose from, and sellers are going to have to start doing things. I hope this was helpful. If I can answer any questions, please feel free to reach out. All my contact information is below. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for all of my future videos. As always, I thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.